Introducing the Champion's Mindset, the podcast that gives your inner game a serious upgrade. Join internationally renowned mindset and performance expert, KATHRYN Orford.
Well, hello there, everyone. First of all, my sincere apologies. We've had a few little technical hiccups here tonight, but I'm here. Better late than never, huh? And also, my apologies. I got laid down with COVID. I think this Tuesday it will be 4 weeks, and I don't get sick. The last time I was sick was actually 2021 when I got COVID, because I'm just I have a fantastically strong, healthy body that I'm very grateful for, because I cannot imagine how I would have felt had I been frail. But anyway, I'm back. And then last week, I had a migraine. I actually have had a migraine 5 out of 7 days this week. But you know what? With the champion's mindset, you just get on with it. So here I am today. And we're going to be talking about, as we always do, mindset. Whether or not it's in the workplace, whether it's on a basketball court, whether or not it's in any area of your life, really, whether or not you're a parent, whether or not you're an individual athlete, whether or not you coach a team. We're going to be talking about coaching chemistry today. Who's got the best vibe when it comes to the NBA? Now, we are in playoff season and we are down to the final two, but I wanted to talk to you about who made it to the final four, because they all had very, very distinct, different coaching styles. Now, I'm not here to actually say who is the best, because let's face it, different strokes for different folks. But I do want to have a little look and to actually understand what it takes to build a great culture and a leadership style, and what it takes to have an amazing human connection that will drive performance. Because whether or not we are leading, as I said, perhaps a family team, perhaps a sporting team, perhaps a business team, or a corporate team, it really doesn't matter. It really does come down to all of the 3 C's. It's culture, it's connection, and what was that third one? Culture, connection. I'll think of the third one in a moment. So moving on, let's get started, shall we? Why does it matter? Well, great coaching comes down to great leadership, doesn't it? And leadership is all about energy and connection. So let's talk about the final four. We've got OKC's Mark Daigneault. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. Then we've got Chris Finch, Minnesota Timberwolves. Then we've got Tom, now again, I might not pronounce this correctly. I'm sorry if I am not. Thibodeau from New York Knicks. And we've got Rick Carlisle. Now think about it. All 4 of these coaches have got wildly different coaching styles, but they all made it deep into the playoffs. First of all, we've got Mark. Now he's the collaborative, empowering innovator. I think one of his absolutely key strengths is he creates psychological safety. Now, Google, quite a few years ago now, did years and years of research on what creates a high-performing team in the workplace. It was a project that they called the Aristotle Project. And they found, it's a really interesting project. I can't go into detail right now because we've only got half an hour, but if you're interested in this, and I really hope you are, because if you are leading any sort of a team, creating psychological safety is the absolutely most important thing that you can do. It's the foundation of creating a really strong culture. When they did this research, they found in the workplace that creating psychological safety totally overrode having a team that had been really working in the workplace for years, if they had people that had really, really been, totally understanding the product they were selling or the years that they've been in the workplace, it totally overrode how charismatic people were. It totally overrode everything. If people didn't feel safe enough to speak up in meetings, if people didn't feel safe enough to say that they needed a mental health day off, etc., it was the people that did feel psychologically safe that those teams way outperformed other teams. Now think about it. OKC are the youngest team in the NBA, and Mark knows that he cannot coach the way that, say, Rick Carlisle is coaching. Rick is old style. There is no way that you can coach a young team like Mark has got the way that Rick is coaching his team. Because he knows to bring out the best in a really young team, it's not about do it till it hurts and do it, it's not about true grit and determination. He knows that he's got to create a psychologically safe environment. He's got to encourage player input, right? He wants them to speak up, and he knows how to speak to each player individually as well as a team. And he's really well known for his humility and staying really calm under pressure. The quote that I think of when I think of Mark is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. His team really get how much he cares about them. Let's move on to Rick. So Rick is the wise adapter. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. He's strategic. However, he is evolving his coaching style. So he used to be really rigid. He's learned that he has to become more open and he has to become more collaborative, because you cannot coach this era of players the way that he was coached. He leads the number one in playoff defense. He fosters transparency and he also fosters honesty. So the quote that I've come up with for him is, what got you here won't get you there. He really encourages his players to go, okay, you did well, but you got to do something different to keep on going. Okay, so he's the wise adapter. Then we've got the quiet strategist. So Chris Finch is thoughtful, he's adaptable, and he's highly focused on defense. And as we all know in basketball, defense really is the key. So he builds around players' strengths. He really knows that he's got to really not just have one size fits all. He looks at every individual. Oops, there goes my microphone. He looks at every individual player. Oops, let's just go back one, shall we? He looks at every individual player and he really builds his team based on each player's strengths. He's very results driven and he's not for everyone. Oh, let me just go back another one. Oh, hold on. What is happening here? I got to go back. So, where have I gone? Sorry about that. Microphone falling down has taken everywhere. So, let's go back. No! Damn, I meant to be going back. Okay. Okay, here we go. So, he builds around his players' strengths. This is the quiet strategist, Chris Finch. And he helped the Wolves develop into a top defense team. The quote I have for him, still waters run deep. Great leaders listen more than they speak. So, moving on. The intense driver. This is Tom Thibodeau. He's tough, he's structured, and boy, is he demanding of his players. So he has high standards and discipline. He is known for pushing his players hard, and he's results driven. And he is not for everyone. But the quote I have for him is, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. So can you see how these 4 highly successful teams have made it to the playoffs with incredibly different leaders? So there is not one size fits all, okay? But they all made it to the playoffs. Now I want to talk about 2 other different coaches. I live in Denver and I am an absolutely diehard Nuggets fan. So we've got the fire versus the flow. Now, let's face it, Michael Malone got us to a championship, and he has so much admiration within the Denver Nuggets. He's also really known for his fiery temper. He's emotional and he's intense. And unfortunately, that fiery temper got him fired. Okay. Josh, I don't know how to pronounce his last name either, so apologies, Josh, if I say this wrong. Josh Kroenke had to step in because there was so much tension between the GM and Michael Malone, and there were a lot of other things happening behind the scenes in the locker room. And they'd lost like 4 games in a row, and he had to come in and do something really unheard of, which was right towards the end of the general season, and actually fire Michael Malone. Now, David Adelman, who was assistant coach, had to step in. David has the exactly opposite temperament to Michael Malone. He's calm, he's composed, and he's incredibly inclusive. He'd been with the team 6 or 7 years, so it wasn't as if the team had to totally get used to somebody brand new. So why did Denver move from one to the other? I believe it's because vibe shapes performance. Now, there are members of the team like Jokic, like Jamal Murray, the older members of the team that could probably cope with Michael Malone's fiery temper, okay? Especially the European players, because that's how they're built. They know that, they fire, grit, determination, do it till it hurts. But the younger members of the team started to actually lift their game. I looked at the bench players and how they started to play towards the end of the season and in the playoffs. And they started to play so much better. And I think personally it was because they could relate more to a calmer approach, which David Adelman has. And of course, now he's been actually promoted to head coach. So it'd be really interesting to see how Nuggets go next season. A friend of mine said, I think he's got to become more assertive. And I beg to differ, because I think perhaps David Adelman's approach, he said, we got to start doing something new. By the way, if anyone does have an in for the Nuggets, I would love to get in there and start coaching them on their mindset and performance, because I know I could help them. So that's an aside. So because leadership styles really do set the emotional tone for the entire team, I think that's how they managed to regroup after an incredibly challenging kind of fractured time in a really, really important part of the season. So the quote that I've come up for this particular situation was, you manage things, but you lead people. So moving on, let's think about the takeaways for everyday leaders like you and me. No matter what type of people you're leading, you've got to know your vibe. Understand your vibe. What do you bring to the team that you're leading? Whether it's a team of family, whether it's a team of athletes that you're coaching, whether it's a business team, a corporate team, we're all on teams because the vibe that you bring to your team, it ripples through your team. It has a massive impact on them. Lead with curiosity instead of control. Really get to know every member of your team. Do you know what their favorite color is? Do you know what they're aspiring to becoming? Do you know their pets' names? Do you know their partners' names if they're married? Do you know their children's names? Years and years and years ago, when my daughter was in primary school, there was an amazing principal at her school, Penny Verdi. Penny used to go out before the bell went in the mornings, and she would be out in the playground, and she was talking to all the parents. Penny knew every parent's name in that school, hundreds of people in that school. She knew every parent's name. She knew every pet's name if they brought a pet to school. She knew all of the little children that were not even at the school's names. She was an extraordinary principal. There was a waiting list to get into that school because everybody knew that Penny genuinely cared about the whole family. So it's all about making sure that you're building a culture where people really understand that you care about them as individuals. So lead with curiosity, not control. Adapt your style to what your people need, not what you think they need. Ask them. Create a culture where people feel psychologically safe. Celebrate, collaborate, not just compliance. Because culture isn't built by slogans. It's not about having a slogan on the wall or a mission statement. It's built by behavior. It's built by every day waking up and going, what can I do today to make my people feel psychologically safe? What can I do today to make my people feel proud to be a part of my team? What can I do today to make sure that my people feel like I recognize what they're bringing to the team? What can I do today to inspire my people to step up and become more of who they are? You know, I had a school of performing arts for many years back in Australia, and it was highly successful. It was in Sydney, and there were probably about 6 top schools. And we would compete against each other all the time. We usually did about 6 competitions per year with my school. And we would battle it out. You know, basically my school would win regional, state, and national championships year in, year out. There was, you know, we'd kind of tossle it out with probably the top 3, really. There was one school, and I was at the New South Wales Jazz Championships one year, and this particular school used to do really well. But I was horrified when I went backstage. My kids were in the wings, but there was one school ahead of us. And I won't mention names, but this school was really well known. And this teacher had a hairbrush, and she was whacking the kids on their backside and on their knees before they went on stage. And it was like, what is she doing? These were like little 12 and under kids, and she's hitting them. It's like, how do you expect them to go on stage and perform well when you're ruling by fear? I was just horrified. And this was only about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. I hung up my teaching shoes probably about that long ago. But I just wonder whether or not she's still in touch with, I'm still in touch on Facebook and Instagram with probably, over 200 of my students. Because as what's his name? I've got it here. What's his name? Greg Popovich. When Greg Popovich was receiving his award in the Hall of Fame, he said, the wins and losses are all crap. He said, he talked about the fact that the importance of family. He said, how the wins and losses, it didn't matter. It wasn't about long lasting. It wasn't about that. It's about the long lasting relationships and family connections. So bringing it back to you, what sort of relationships are you building with your team? Are you building long lasting connections? If you're in business, are you just wanting to drive your people into the ground to get that sale or to reach their sales targets? Or are you genuinely caring about them as people beyond the workplace? If you are a basketball coach, are you just going for the win? Or are you realizing you've got the most important job in the whole world because you are teaching them life skills way beyond the basketball court? And if you're a parent, oh my goodness, that's the most important job in the whole world because you are grooming your children to leave the nest and be a better version than you could ever be. So I really hope that this particular episode, pardon me, has inspired you to think about what style of leader are you? What legacy do you want to leave behind? And know your vibe. What sort of vibe do you have? And what style of leadership do you want to have? There's no right or wrong, but I know what style I want to be. And it's somewhere between, say, David Adelman and Mark. Okay? So I hope you found this episode useful. Please, if you found it useful, share it. Let other people know about it. And please subscribe. And of course, if you want a free copy of my book, Mental Performance Mastery, you know what to do. You're going to find a link to be able to download that. And I look forward to seeing you next week when I will probably have a guest to interview. So thanks again for watching. Ciao for now.
Thanks for watching The Champion's Mindset with KATHRYN Orford. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.